Today, we look at the history of WrestleMania 3. What led to one of the biggest WrestleManias of all time at the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan in 1987? Well, it was this main event of Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. But to get there, we need to take a look back at some of the things that helped get to that. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, May 1987, we got Hulk versus Andre on the cover. The WWF braces for an all-out war. We see the tail of the tape there with the height, the weight, the reach, the biceps, the chest, all that is there. PWI knew where the WWF was headed for this big event, and they were quick to get it on the cover immediately. The Wrestler from May 87 also had something on this with Hulk versus Andre, how the experts see this match. Hulk and Andre, of course, wrestled many times before in the early 80s when Hulk was a bad guy and Andre was a good guy. And they did it at Shea Stadium, Madison Square Garden, places like that. Probably I think the Philadelphia Spectrum had it too as well back then. And, of course, the WWF at the time didn't want us to know that. I didn't know that as a 6-year-old kid in 1987 that Hogan wrestled Andre years earlier. I had no idea that Hogan was a bad guy years earlier. So Vince McMahon wanted to change the history of it all. And if you were a new fan at that time during that big rise in wrestling, you had no clue that these two battled before. The British Bulldogs, the WWF Tag Team Champions, won them at WrestleMania 2, defeating Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine, the Dream Team. Of course, the Bulldogs had Ozzy Osbourne on their cover that night at WrestleMania 2 from Chicago when they won the belts. Would hold on to them for almost a year, losing them to the Hart Foundation in January of 1987. Now, the Bulldogs got injured. Dynamite Kid got injured in a house show match in Ontario, Canada, against Cowboy Bob Orton and the Magnificent Morocco. Blew out his back pretty bad. They couldn't do a lot, so the Vince wanted the belts off them. Vince actually wanted the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov to be champions, but Dynamite Kid vetoed that and said, no, it's got to be Bret Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation, with their manager, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Randy Macho Man Savage, the Intercontinental Champion, defeating Tito Santana for that title at the Boston Garden in February 1986. Of course, Randy Savage actually made history in a weird way here. Do you realize, maybe you do, maybe you don't, well, even though Honky Tonk Man was the longest Intercontinental Champion back then, he held it from May 87 to August 88, Randy Savage has the honor of competing at 2 WrestleManias in a row defending the Intercontinental title. WrestleMania 2 in 1986, he defended it against George the Animal Steele in New York and was victorious, of course. WrestleMania 3 defended the Intercontinental title against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with George the Animal Steele in his corner at WrestleMania 3 in Pontiac, Michigan. Steamboat got the big win in one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. Wrestlers from other territories even said that. They watched WrestleMania 3 and were jealous of the event, jealous of the whole show because they would love to have been a part of it. And Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage made it the match of the night at that wrestling event, and it's one that must be seen. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, July 87, Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage, even WrestleMania 3 cannot end this feud. And the funny thing is that these guys were actually wrestling on house show loops leading into WrestleMania 3. Of course, we all remember the WWF Superstars of Wrestling episode where Randy Savage put the ring bell on Ricky Steamboat's throat and dropped him across the guardrail and all that with the axe handle. But these guys were doing house show loops way before that, leading up to WrestleMania 3. WWF Best of Volume 9. There's an opening match with Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto for the Intercontinental title. Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan are doing commentary for it, if my memory is correct. Savage gets juiced later in the match, gets busted open, bleeds everywhere, but it's a great match, and I'm sure that these guys probably had better wrestling matches than WrestleMania 3 on house shows in front of 10,000 fans, right, in Uniondale, New York or something. Like, I'm sure that happened. I remember Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon said that their match leading into WrestleMania 10, they had many ladder matches on house shows that were way better than the WrestleMania 10 one. So it wouldn't shock me if these two had better matches than WrestleMania 3, just no one knows. Sports Review Wrestling, July 87, Steamboat takes Savage's Intercontinental title, the match that made WrestleMania 3 great. That is true. Like I said, it was one of the greatest matches that ever happened, and it really made WrestleMania 3 something to watch. The WWF Magazine, April and May 87. WrestleMania 3 exclusive preview, a giant challenge for Hulk Hogan. And yes, it was a giant challenge. Hogan and Andre was set WrestleMania 3, the main event, to pack in 93,173 fans. June 87, Sports Review Wrestling, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, the war that's bigger than both of them. This match, or this picture here, is taken from the Battle Royal that happened on Saturday night's main event going into WrestleMania 3. These two got their hands on each other in that one. Andre busted open, leaping Lanny Poffo with a headbutt, and also Andre eliminated the Hulkster in that Battle Royal. Andre would get eliminated as well, but that didn't matter. The whole point was Andre getting rid of Hogan. I believe it was the Mighty Hercules who was victorious in that Battle Royal. So at least a Bobby the Brain Heenan guy got the win. WrestleMania 3's exclusive photos and results here in the June 1987 WWF Magazine. It's just the WWF showing us various photos of the event. All 12 matches are highlighted and shown in this magazine. And yeah, that's crazy to think. 12 matches back then. Around 3 hours was the event. And it was must-see TV, actually, back then, because, you know, on the weekly shows, it was all enhancement talent, very few top stars wrestling. So these events back then seemed a whole hell of a lot more special than they do nowadays when watching WWE. Pro Wrestling Illustrated Supercars, September 1987, highlighting all the events that were happening around that time frame, from WrestleMania 3, the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament, UWF Super Blast at the Superdome, and the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions. Hogan and Andre, Steamboat with the IC title with George Steele and Dave Hebner making the visual there for WrestleMania 3, and rightfully so. WrestleMania 3 makes history. Inside Wrestling, July 1987. We see the Hulkster, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Andre the Giant on the cover there. So every wrestling magazine was definitely talking about it around this time frame. July 1987, WWF Magazine, Hulk versus Andre, a blow-by-blow action from WrestleMania 3. This is just really showing this match in this magazine. I believe it was the Battle of the Titans issue. Like, that's the story on this one, showing that match, talking about the match. You know, they do it in the last magazine, but that was everything. This one, they're just really highlighting the main event of WrestleMania 3. Giant Killer. Hogan topples Andre at WrestleMania 3. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, August 1987. Yes, Hogan did slam Andre here, but the bigger deal is Hogan slammed Andre back in 1980. So did Kamala. So did Harley Race. So Vince McMahon, again, trying to erase history, thinking, hey, Andre was never slammed. No, Andre was slammed many times before. But Hogan did it at WrestleMania 3. The place went nuts. My dad was a bus driver, and he had tickets to that event because he drove a busload to Pontiac, Michigan for WrestleMania 3, and they give him a free ticket to see the event. He was way up high in the nosebleeds, but he said when he was up there watching, he actually thought Andre the Giant pinned Hulk Hogan right off the bat. That opening spot where Hogan goes to slam Andre and Andre falls on him and Joey Morella counts to 3, only Hogan gets the shoulder up at that last second. A lot of fans up in the high seats, the nosebleeds, couldn't tell. They actually thought Andre the Giant had just pinned Hulk Hogan for the WWF title. So it's kind of interesting. Survivor Series 87 would come along this year. That was the next pay-per-view event that Vince McMahon had. WrestleMania 3 was such a success. WrestleMania 2 was a success. You know, it was time for another one. Survivor Series is what it was. As you know, it's teams of 5 strive to survive, at least back in this era. Except for tag teams, they had 10 men on each team because they had 5 teams. But the Survivor Series gave us a main event of Hulk Hogan, Ken Patera, The Rock Don Morocco, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and the Beast from the East, Bam Bam Bigelow, with Oliver Humperdinck and Superstar Billy Graham. Was Superstar in the corner then? I know Oliver was. Maybe Superstar wasn't yet. Maybe he was out injured. I know he did manage Morocco. But, he replaced Morocco. Morocco replaced Billy Graham. That's right. Against Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy, Ravishing Rick Rude, One Man Gang, and the Natural Butch Reed with Bobby the Brain Heenan and the Doctor of Style Slick on the ringside for them. It came down to Andre and Hogan did interact. Hogan got counted out. It was Bam Bam Bigelow against King Kong Bundy, the one-man gang, and Andre the Giant. And Bam Bam, of course, pinned Bundy, pinned the one-man gang, but Andre the Giant was victorious over Bam Bam and was the sole survivor in the main event of the Survivor Series. Hulk Hogan here, all fired up because he was ready to face Andre the Giant one more time. It was going to happen on a very special primetime episode on NBC in February of 1988 called The Main Event. Not Saturday night's main event, just the main event on at 8 p.m. on a Friday night on NBC. And Hogan, of course, had to deal with this man, Bobby the Brain Heenan, leading up in that entire 1987 run. But coming into this situation, Bobby Heenan actually sold the rights to Andre the Giant, to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Bobby the Brain Heenan was no longer the manager of Andre the Giant. The $1 Million Man was. Andre Giant rages thunder. Sorry, let me try that again. Andre Giant Rage thunders around Hulk. That would take place in January at the first ever Royal Rumble in 1988. It was a special on the USA Network from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, which I find ironic because Canada didn't get the USA Network. Never have, never will, unless you have an illegal satellite dish from America, or back then those big giant black satellite dishes that you can move and turn and everything. You can even get the pay-per-views in for free back then. It was incredible. But yeah, that happened. The contract signing happened at the Royal Rumble 1988. Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. $1 Million Man was there. Jack Tunney was there. It was crazy. The contract took place, and Hulk Hogan wrestled Andre the Giant on the main event. April 1988 magazine of the WWF, and it says right there, Hogan's title stolen. A vengeful giant takes the belt with a little help from his friends. Andre the Giant and the $1 Million Man had an evil referee who had work done to his face to look like Dave Hebner. No, it was Dave's twin brother, Earl Hebner, jumping ship from the Crockett Company to come to the WWF. And of course, that wasn't the first time Earl Hebner was involved in a screw job ending, right? We all remember Survivor Series 1997 with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. He was the referee, but he did screw Hulk Hogan out of the WWF title here tonight on the main event. And it was when Andre had pinned Hogan. Hogan got the shoulder up at 2, and Earl Hebner kept counting, and he counted 3. Andre the Giant was crowned new WWF champion, and right then handed the belt over to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, thus making Ted DiBiase the new WWF World Champion. And Ted would defend the belt, for like a week or so at house show loops, but then eventually they took the belt off him. It's not even recognized that Ted was champion anymore. It was done. There was no Ted DiBiase champion, no Hogan champion. Instead, we had a tournament, WrestleMania 4, at the Trump Plaza, the 14-man tournament. Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan would get buys. They would wrestle each other in the quarterfinals, and the winner of that match would end up facing the winner between the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, or the Rock Don Morocco. Now, Ted DiBiase was victorious to go to the semifinals, but the problem is Hogan and Andre had a double disqualification. Neither man won, so neither man advanced to the semifinals. So Ted DiBiase actually had a bye right to the finals, where he lost in the finals to the new WWF World Champion, Randy Macho Man Savage, with the help of Hulk Hogan and Miss Elizabeth, of course. Yeah, there's your history of WrestleMania 3. Brief history, but a history nonetheless. I wanted to make this a little longer, maybe explain some more things. I bought an SD card for my Android phone, and everything was supposed to go to it, but my SD card is not formatting right. I think it's not working properly. I'm gonna have to buy a new one and try down the road again to do that, because I only have enough space on my phone right now to do like up to 20 minutes of a video. I used to be able to do like 2.5 hours if I wanted to, but that was 3 years ago when I got the phone brand new. Since then, things have been uploading and downloading and everything on there. I don't have much on there except for Instagram, Facebook, and Facebook Messenger for like added on apps. So it's crazy to think that my phone is full now. I might just have to eventually get a new phone. Like I said, it's 3.5 years old. Phones are not made to last forever anymore, unfortunately, because they keep doing this. But I just wanted to show you WrestleMania 3, show you what uh, led up to this special event. You know, it was a crazy time. Wrestling was at its peak then, right? Like wrestling was on the rise. You know, WrestleMania 1, 1985, and it was, you know, the rock and wrestling, and it went up to a peak, a high on the mountain. That was definitely 1987. And, you know, WrestleMania 3, the peak started to come down. I'd say it started coming down like around 1988 because the main event drew big numbers for Hogan and Andre rematch, you know, for free TV, primetime Friday night. But 1989, when the Mega Powers exploded at Trump Plaza, you know, wrestling wasn't as popular. And then it just kind of dwindled down as the years went on until the big boom in like 1998 with the Attitude Era and the NWO and the Monday Night Wars and such. But yeah, that was it. This was the look at WrestleMania 3, one of the greatest wrestling events ever to take place. 93,173 fans, so they say. Could be more, could be less. We don't really know. That's just the number they gave us. We got to take it at face value. It was a packed stadium, right? If you look at the photos, the video, it was packed. It was a cloudy day that day as well, so no one had to worry about getting blinded by sun or anything. I remember someone said to Vince leading up to that, well, what if the sun's out that day? And Vince said, it won't be. It will be a cloudy day. And Vince, I don't know, he made a deal with the devil or God or someone, but he was lucky there. It was a cloudy day. Everyone could see things fine. No glares, no sun. And it was just a really cool event. So anyone who wants to go back now and revisit WrestleMania 3, I say do so. It's amazing. A lot of good stuff. Like I said, Roddy Piper has his retirement match. Brutus Beefcake becomes the barber at that event. This is the only event you're ever going to see Tom Zank appear at a WrestleMania, where him and Rick Martel are the Can-Am connection. Jake the Snake Roberts being a babyface here against the Honky Tonk Man with Alice Cooper and Jake the Snake's corner. We got Hacksaw Jim Duggan coming here from the UWF to help out the Killer Bees against Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. You got the six-man tag match with Tito Santana and the Bulldogs against the Hart Foundation and Danny Davis. You got Savage and Steamboat, of course, and you got Hogan and Andre, plus so much more. So go back and revisit WrestleMania 3. You will not regret it. It's one of the best. All right, guys, until I do my next video, I'll talk to you later.